Oh, man, I always love doing this. The Thursday crossover brought to you by our friends at PrizePicks. Matt Dery, Locked On Lions. Peter Bukowski, the legendary host of Locked On Packers. He is everywhere on this network as well. Yes, Pete, come on. 3-5 Pack and 1-6 Lions, dude. We're
Oof.
here. Can you believe it?
This is brutal. And guess what? I think the Lions, if they're fully healthy and they're not, they would have the better offense. I don't even think it's close.
What's that all about? We're going to get into all this in a second, but give me 30 seconds. Just what is going on up there?
It is truly hard to understand what is going on right now. Part of it is that your offensive line is not playing as well as you thought they would. Your quarterback is not playing as well as you thought he would. And your main guys, Alan Lazard, has been hurt in and out of the lineup. Randall Cobb on IR. Sammy Watkins just off IR. So you haven't even had your guys. You've been relying on the Romeo Dobbses of the world. And in this last game, Samori Toure, 7th round pick. It's been a little bit of everything, unfortunately, for the Green Bay Packers on offense. So we'll see if they can turn it around against objectively the worst defense in the league.
Yes. Crossover Thursday presented by our friends at PrizePicks. PrizePicks, so much fun, easy to play. No competing with other players, just you versus the projections available. Pick 2 to 5 players. If they score more or less than their PrizePicks projection, you can win up to 10 times your money on your entry. It literally can take less than 60 seconds to enter. It's that easy. We love PrizePicks. We know you will too. First-time users can receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100 with promo code LOCKEDON. That's prizepicks.com, promo code LOCKEDON. So, Pete, the Packers coming to town. Certainly the Lions not playing very well. Let's start with you on storyline, biggest storyline you think entering Sunday for this Green Bay team.
That's it. That's my sigh. That's the biggest storyline. This is the season for Green Bay. If they can't look right, if they can't go in and beat a Detroit Lions team that, by the way, has given them some problems the last couple of years, irrespective of the team's records. I mean, Lions fans love to point out that there was that 2-year run where like the Packers led the Lions for like 4 total seconds of those games. And yet the Packers were winning those games. They need a game to look like themselves a little bit, or it's a lost year. Like if you can't do it against the Lions, you just can't do it. And you have to start asking questions about the future of this team, the future of Aaron Rodgers. Is he going to be the starter the rest of the way? Or do you just go to Jordan Love and see what you have? Should they have been sellers at the deadline? There'll be some retroactive questions if they look bad in this game or, God forbid, lose this game. And it's not even that crazy at this point that they would lose this game. If this game takes place last year, I mean, I think the Packers were touchdown favorites in Detroit last year in a game where we knew they were only going to play a half. So, I mean, that tells you a lot about the differences between these two teams a year later.
I think here for the Packers, Locked On Packers listeners, I mean, the storyline here, I don't even know where to begin either. TJ Hawkinson's been traded. Brad Holmes, the general manager, spoke on Wednesday and basically said, hey, look, we're still in the building phase here. And if we were 6-1, we would have made that trade. I mean, that's a complete lie. No 6-1 team is trading their second or third best offensive player, whether you like Hawkinson or not. I thought at 1-5, they had to win one of their 2 games here at home, Miami last week and Green Bay, obviously this week. I made a proclamation on my show that I was ready to resign and quit if they don't do it. So this could be my last crossover, Pete. But in all seriousness,
I'm honored that it would be with me. Truly.
But in all seriousness, there's just so many storylines. I mean, like you said, the historically bad defense couldn't get off the field last week against Tua. I don't know what they're going to do against Rodgers, although from what you're saying, this offense is broken in Green Bay. So it's almost like a take your pick your poison type situation. I mean, this is Green Bay. This, like you said, this is their season, but the Lions have basically waved the white flag with the Hawkinson trade, and now they're kind of sitting at 1-6. It's we could go so many different ways with this thing,
It is pretty bizarre to be here with these two teams. I think the difference, and you tell me, like, I was going to ask you this, how hot is the seat with Dan Campbell right now? Because I don't think Matt LaFleur's seat is warm. Like if they lose out, I think you have to just blow it up. I don't see that happening for Green Bay. But I understand that when that you have your GM coming out and saying we're still building this thing, and if we would have been 6-1, we would have traded TJ Hawkinson, and all of that is well and good. But at a certain point, this is still an NFL team. You still have to win some games. And as fun a story as Detroit's offense is, and as great as Jamal Williams was on Hard Knocks, at a certain point you have to win games, don't you? So what is the temperature right now? How high is that red mercury in the thermometer right now in his seat?
Well, two things. Number one, the fans are starting to see through this. They do love Campbell. He is fun. All the things, your joke and you were one of the first to jump on it last year, the whole kneecap biting thing. Fans do like him. Nobody doesn't like the guy and what he stands for. And Hard Knocks, that wasn't an act. That's who he is. But like you said, 4-19-1 in 2 years in this league where Tom Brady's below 500, Aaron Rodgers below 500. I mean, the Bears in your division are tanking, not even trying to win. They have 3 wins. The Commanders, who the Lions blew out in week 2, have 4 wins. Carolina, who's trading everybody away, has 2 wins. And you're sitting there with 1. I mean, that's not a very good reflection on the coach. Now, number 1, Sheila Hamp, the owner, last week came out and said, love these guys. Like, we had to tear it down. It's going to take some time. Holmes asked yesterday about it, said, yeah, I'm not going to get into this. This is an end of the season presser. I'm not going to answer questions about my coach's future. This is just about the Hawkinson trade. So I think Campbell's safe, but if they end up 1-16 or something, how do you keep him? But here in Detroit, they are notoriously known, the Ford family, whether it was dad, whether it was mom, and now it's daughter, of holding on to people way too long. Matt Millen got way too long. Matt Patricia got a 3rd year. Wayne Fontes was around double-digit years. So I don't see Campbell being let go unless they just completely, the ship just takes too much water. But I don't think that's going to happen.
This is partially a similar story to what's going on in Green Bay right now, because Matt LaFleur was asked about the future of Joe Barry, and he was like taken aback by the question. And I think that shows a little bit of him maybe he's just caping for his guy or whatever it is, or potentially more troubling, he's just that out of touch with what's going on and what the fan reaction is to this team and what the media reaction is to this team. Like, there's 7 first-round picks on this defense, Matt, and they are a below average defense. Like, that can't happen. And they're consistently falling off in the second halves of these games, although they played much better in the second half they had the sort of reverse of the games that they've been having. Offensively, they were much better in the second half than the first half, and defensively, they were much better in the second half than the first half. It's been the exact opposite all season. And Matt LaFleur was like shocked, gobsmacked that anyone would dare wonder if Joe Barry would be the DC. And yet everyone from the outside is going, are we sure this is the right guy? Are we sure that they're maximizing the talent on this team? And I do think at a certain point you have to wonder if the talent is really as good as we thought. That's a Brian Gutekunst question. Unfortunately, he doesn't have to answer after a trade deadline where the Packers do exactly 0 squat zilch nada for a team that desperately needed some help on the offense. So it is, I would say, for Packers fans, strangely similar to what's going on in Detroit. This is a position that they are not used to being in. And that's not even really shade at Detroit. This is just unfamiliar territory for Green Bay. And they're searching right now, Matt.
That's the voice of Peter Bukowski, Locked On Packers, Matt Dery, Locked On Lions Thursday crossover. We're going to get some key matchups, and we're going to do that coming up next for both sides. First, our friends at BlueNile, the original online jeweler. Folks, you're looking for jewelry, it's simple. There's only one place to go, and that is BlueNile.com. BlueNile offers the largest selection of independently graded diamonds and pieces priced significantly below traditional retailers. They have helped millions of couples create their perfect engagement ring. Their easy online tools let you choose the diamond shape, size, clarity, all of that, as well as setting style. Blue Nile's bench jewelers will then help you handcraft her perfect one-of-a-kind engagement ring. Blue Nile, they are the best. Looking for a piece of fine jewelry to commemorate a special milestone, but still having trouble choosing? Blue Nile has jewelry experts on hand 24/7, either on the phone or in chat, to make it easy for you. Shop stress-free with Blue Nile's 100% satisfaction guarantee. All orders are insured and shipped for free in discreet packaging. They also offer overnight shipping if you're in a rush. Call to action. Simple. Make your moment sparkle with Blue Nile. Go to BlueNile.com and use code LOCKEDON to to save $50 on your purchase of $500 or more. That's BlueNile.com. Code locked on to save $50 on your purchase of $500 or more. BlueNile.com. Code locked on. Thursday crossover, Lions hosting the Packers coming up Sunday at Ford Field. Back-to-back home games here for Detroit. Green Bay, of course, fresh off that loss to the Bills last week. Real fast, Pete, what stood out for you Sunday night? Because that game was over rather quickly, huh?
Yeah, I think what stood out for me is Green Bay didn't panic. They, down 14, ran the ball. And then they ran the ball, and then they ran the ball again, and they scored. And all of a sudden, it's 14-7. And, some weird things happened. They throw a tipped interception right back after Josh Allen throws an interception. They eventually get that interception back because of Josh Allen. They got 2 fourth down stops in plus territory. It was interesting. I went back and looked at the numbers from the Chiefs game with the Bills. And the Packers defensively were better per play than the Chiefs were. And they were better against Josh Allen than the Chiefs were. It was offensively, they were just 2 plays or 3 plays away. Big Bob Tunyon gets called for a garbage offensive pass interference. That would make the game. Packers end up having to settle for a field goal. That was on 3rd down. That would have made the game 27-21. And then that last possession, they're there with a chance to go score and win the game. It's a very different feel. And then you give up these two drives in plus territory on 4th down, 1 4th and 3, where there was a miscommunication and Zach Tom, the rookie, playing out of position at guard, gets worked. And then you have a 4th and 1 call, which was a terrible call. The Packers are the worst 4th down team in the league this year, where you try and run into a 10-man Buffalo box. You expect your 2-time reigning, 4-time overall MVP to be able to get you out of those situations, and they weren't able to. It was really a game that was 2 or 3 plays away from being much closer than it was. If you look at the box score, you'd go, this had to have been a field goal game. This was a 1-possession game late. And it wasn't, just because the Packers' margin for error is so small that you don't get a 4th down on 4th and 1 in plus territory, it's a 7-point swing. Or you don't go for it on 4th and 3, it's a 3-point swing. And that's a problem for them right now. But this matchup is really nice for them. I was just looking up the numbers as you were doing our supporting our wonderful sponsors. And in EPA yes. per play, so estimated points added per play, on a per play basis, this Detroit Lions defense is 32nd. They're the worst defense in the league. The difference between the Lions at 32 and the Falcons at 31 is more than the difference between the Falcons at 31 and the Cardinals at 18. So the difference between the worst defense in the league and the second worst defense in the league is basically the gap between being the second worst defense in the league and being a slightly below average defense. That's how much worse they are than everybody else. Another great stat, and then I won't bore you with any more numbers for a little while. EPA per dropback. So this is passing defense. They are giving up more EPA per dropback than Aaron Rodgers was generating last season when he was the MVP. So every team that plays the Detroit Lions deep passing defense becomes better than 2021 Aaron Rodgers. Yikes. And still, if you're a Packers fan, you're going, yeah, I don't know if they can score 30 on this team. I just don't know. I don't know. They don't have confidence right now that this team can take advantage of that. And that is wild.
It is wild, and obviously Lions, for some of the Packer fans that I might not know, the Lions fired their secondary coach on Monday, Aubrey Pleasant, because after the game on Sunday, Dan Campbell said, well, the plan was to jam Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle last week in the 4-point loss to the Dolphins, and instead those guys ran free and nobody touched them as they came off the line all day. I don't know if that's on the head coach, Aaron Glenn, the D coordinator, or Pleasant, but it's obvious Pleasant got the pink slip. And then, Sunday night, you sit down in front of the TV and watch the Packers if you're a Lions fan, and you go, wait a minute, what is going on here? How's Green Bay only scoring 18 points per game with this quarterback? And yes, the receiving core is young, and Watson can't stay healthy and all those things. That's one of the key matchups for me is just, can the Lions get some pressure on Aaron Rodgers? Because they're second to last in sacks in the league. They're first-round pick, number 2 overall. It's not 22, not 32, 2 in Aiden Hutchinson. Can he get to the quarterback? Can they? Because that's how the Lions might end up winning this thing, is if they can get a little heat on Rodgers and make things uncomfortable for him. Because this is the game, you're right, I'm sure the folks in Ashwaubenon are saying, hey, it's going to be the get right game. Rodgers will have all day to throw, and even the receivers are young and inexperienced, but he'll get right because his jersey will be clean. That's what I'm looking at is if they can get some heat on Rodgers, maybe they'll be in this thing.
Who are the guys that if you're a Packers fan, you're going, okay, you have to be afraid of these guys because Aiden Hutchinson had the one really nice statistical game, but I was sort of looking at this roster going, who are the pass rushers supposed to be that the Green Bay Packers are going to be scared of in this game? They've had a lot of problems with interior pass rushers. I think Alim McNeil has been a really nice player as a run defender, but he's not a pass rusher. So who are those guys that you're going, okay, if they can create interior or on the edge, although the Packers tackles have been very good, we expect David Bakhtiari to play in this game. Although if Lions fans don't know, 2 weeks ago, we didn't know the morning of the game that David Bakhtiari was not going to play. The Packers didn't know either, and they had to go into the game. So until we know for sure he's active, do not assume Bakhtiari is going to be out there. But Matt, who are those guys that, okay, this guy could get hot and create problems for Aaron Rodgers?
Well, Charles Harris might actually come back. He's missed the last couple of games, and he's not been healthy. We'll see if he can go Sunday. Josh Paschal is a second-round pick that had hernia surgery, came back 2 games ago. Actually, the first game, he did okay and was actually pretty active. This past Sunday, you didn't even know he was on the field. So, yeah, that's a weak point. It continues to be a weak point. You mentioned interior rush. They're paying Michael Brockers $8 million a year. He's been a healthy scratch the last 2 weeks. They just don't have the bodies inside to, whatever games they play, anything they try to do to get to a quarterback, they just haven't gotten there. And this has been the last couple of years. They thought Hutchinson and Harris, after last year, gave him some money, would be the guys. Austin Bryant's been a bit of a bust. So there's not a lot there right now. Aaron Glenn loved to blitz, and early this year, if you recall all the blitzing they did in the Seattle game, it destroyed them. So now they've been a little bit more backing off with the blitzing. But anything else stick out for you besides what we just talked about in terms of matchups in this one for Green Bay?
Yeah, I think the offense is something that the Packers fans are going to be concerned about. This is the 10th ranked team adjusting for schedule and offensive efficiency. I know they have some injuries. DeAndre Swift dealing with injury. Amon-Ra St. Brown the last couple weeks, right, has been in and out of the lineup a little bit. And then you lose TJ Hawkinson in a trade to Minnesota, and Packer fans are sort of going like, why not us? If you're going to do that, apparently the Packers did check in on Hawk and just, whatever the price tag. I frankly thought it was too much, but I've never really been a Hawkinson guy the way that some people have been. So now you lose that. And he was, for all of my, sort of misgivings about the trade, a valuable piece for them run and pass, because when you can play with that tight end on the line of scrimmage and 11 personnel, it allows you to do so much more in the run game. Now you lose that. That's a big blow for this team. And now you have to, on the fly, figure out what the rest of this offense looks like. The Packers defense has made some lesser offenses look better. And so when you have an offense that has done some fun things and an offense that kind of lit them up last year in that game, even when the starters were on the field, I think Packer fans are going, I don't know. Like, this has to be, as much as it is for the offense, has to be a get-right game. I think you want it to be a little bit of a get-right game for the defense. Pressure Jared Goff, force him to make mistakes. This offense, it has to drive you nuts, Matt. The penalties, the drops, the missed assignments, where you're just going, what are we doing? And I sympathize as I watch the Packers, because I feel the same way, going, does this team practice? And it is a little cathartic watching the Lions, because I'm like, okay, so there's definitely a less disciplined, more idiotic team out there than the Packers, because that seems hard to fathom sometimes when I watch Green Bay.
I'll be honest. The first half this past Sunday, the offense looked really good, and then they came out in the second half, and you're right, the first series after Miami came down and scored, 3 straight offensive line penalties, a couple of false starts, and a hold. Now you're at 1st and 30, right, and that just kills the drive. But that's been kind of vintage Lions for a while. And
they played Miami tough, though. They've played some of these games tough. They just can't finish them. Why can't they finish them?
Second halves are at the coming out in the third quarter, and this is where coaching comes in, to be honest. Mike McDaniel made adjustments. The Dolphins staff made adjustments, and the Lions don't. This has been every week now for the last few. Pete Carroll, same thing with the Seahawks game in the 48-45 shootout. You got to come out of the locker room with something. And for some odd reason, third quarters have been brutal. Goff has had a couple of interceptions, including a pick six on their first possession coming out of the tunnel. And that just can't cut it. That's for sure.
This
All
is
right, when
going
we
to be
come back,
the battle of teams that do not make adjustments coming out of halftime, because the Packers have been an abysmal second half team overall, and especially in the third and fourth quarter. So,
yeah, no, it's surprising, especially with Aaron Rodgers and that group, and certainly you mentioned Matt LaFleur too, whose record has been impeccable. Let's talk about our friends at BetOnline very quickly before we get some predictions on this one. BetOnline.net, your number one source for all your betting football needs, basketball, the NBA going on, NHL, and of course the World Series as well. BetOnline.net, where you find all the latest player developments, team matchups, news, podcasts, and in-depth analysis on every game. You want to know the spread in a game? You want to know over/under? This is where you go. BetOnline.net. They remain your continued source for all your sports wagering info, live betting, and up-to-the-minute scores for every sport out there. I mentioned before, check in on everything, including MLB with the World Series going on, MMA, boxing, and golf as well. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more. Bet online, where the game starts. Matt Dery, Locked On Lions. Peter Bukowski, Locked On Packers. It's the PrizePicks NFL, Locked On NFL Thursday crossover. I mean, all right, so we have to make a prediction. I picked the Lions last week. There is no way in hell I'm picking the Lions this week. Aaron Rodgers is coming, and even when the Lions, you can go back to the Hail Mary game. All right, I was there. I can't do it. There's no way. They're waving the white flag. I just don't see it. Rodgers is so due, right, to break out, and I just think it's going to be too much for Detroit to handle this week. What do you say?
So here's what I'll say. If the Packers start fast, this is a game where they could really take it to Detroit because of the defensive issues. They had a 14-3 lead against Washington. They had multiple two-score leads against the Giants. They blew those leads because they wouldn't run the ball in the second half. I think that issue is now somewhat fixed based on what we saw on Sunday. I think they will stay committed to the run defense. But I just looked up these numbers. Green Bay, adjusting for schedule, is the 27th defense in the third quarter of this season. This is weakness against weakness for these two teams. And then this is, I think, more troubling. In late and close games, the Packers are the worst defense in the league. And worst defense by a mile. So that's pretty bad. And so if this game is close late, I don't know how you have any faith in the Packers to pull it out on the road, given what we've seen the last few weeks. So here I'm going to make a coward's prediction.
Yeah.
This game is either going to be like 31-17 or it's going to be 24-20 and the Packers are going to lose. Like, those are the only two options. If this game is close, I have no faith in Green Bay to win, but I certainly can see them getting off the schneid a little bit and saying, okay, you come out and this game is 14-3 in the first quarter. You run the ball against this team and they just don't have enough. Jared Goff is not going to bring you back, and they can pin their ears back and play complimentary football, all that stuff. If they can do that, they can win big. If it's close, I have 0. I was going to do a little. I have 0 faith in the Packers to close these games out because the defense has just been that bad lately.
How about that? Yeah, 29th in the league in run defense, I believe, right? And the Lions want to run. And to be honest, I'm guessing
Swift's going to play. What's the status with Swift right now?
Well, that's what I'm saying. I'm guessing they're going to keep him out. Didn't practice on Wednesday, and they said, Campbell said on the radio on Tuesday morning on the flagship station that maybe he's not ready to come back. He's a chandelier right now. He's so talented, but he's always hurt. But I'll say this. I think Jamal Williams is going to have a big game. I think they're going to run. I think they're going to try to keep Rodgers off the field. I think they can run, actually. But the issue is going to be third downs. And again, if they get to that 4th and 2, 4th and 1, that's when the Lions just go into this crazy shell. Last week, 4th and 2 driving against the Dolphins, and they throw a bomb to Josh Reynolds. It was incomplete. Like, that's the call. Swift's in the game, by the way, but he's hurt. Where's Williams? Not in the game. And then Hockenson was in blocking on that play. So there's just head-scratching things. And if we had to go down to edges and stuff, I mean, LaFleur versus Campbell, advantage Peter Bukowski. So
can I ask you a big picture question before we get out of here? So the Lions have been paying Jared Goff a bunch of money.
Yes, it's over.
Presumably, this is a CJ Stroud team. This is a Bryce Young team. This is
I think so. Now, I wouldn't have said that a few weeks ago because I thought they were married to him. But the more I'm seeing and the more that I would believe, especially in some of these closer games, Belichick had something for Goff that day, and the Patriots blew him out. Last week, like I said, the 4th and 2 just doesn't make enough plays. And with this quarterback-heavy draft and where the Lions are sitting right now, I think they're finally going to pull the trigger and finally draft one. Question is, like you said, would it be Hooker, Stroud, Bryce, Levis, Richardson? Which one would it be? But looks like they're gonna be in their position to finally do it. And if they could get rid of Goff, I think they only take about a $10 million hit, as opposed to before this year. If they wanted to do it, it would have been closer to $30 million. So I think you're going to see a new quarterback in Detroit.
Another thing that I just want to pull out of this matchup is the Lions have been at times a very man-heavy team. And I thought that would come back to bite them a little more against Miami than it did. But Green Bay, when their receivers get pressed, even if it's zone, like the Bills played them in press, but it's still a zone look. You drop out of it, or it's a man match, or whatever it is. They have had issues because it's Romeo Doubs, it's Sammy Watkins, it's these older guys in Watkins' case, and it's these rookies in Doubs' case. They have not been able to get out press. And so that is, I think, going to be something that the Lions are going to try to do. Will the Packers have answers? Allen Lazard practiced on Wednesday. Hopefully that's trending in the right direction for him. Randall Cobb will not play. We'll see with Christian Watson. I think Christian Watson is an underrated piece for this team. When he plays, the offense just looks different. And his speed is a huge factor, opens up so many opportunities for everything else that happens here. So they need to get some of that stuff worked out, but I think we're going to see more Samori Toure. And he had a nice game last week. He ran, I think he had 17 snaps, Matt, and had 4 targets. And Sammy Watkins played 80% of snaps and had 1 target. Like, the writing is on the wall for that guy. Wow. And I said this week, like, just cut him and let
play the
Kansas
kids.
City, let LA, like, let him go play for a team that actually has a chance to contend for a Super Bowl, because he's a great guy and his teammates like him. It's not going to happen here for him. Because he can't move the same way. But on a team where there's more space, maybe he can still be a useful sort of possession receiver. This is going to have to be a Dobbs game. That's just what it is. And he had a nice game last week. If he has that same kind of game, I think the Packers can really score points. If not, then again, this is 24-20. It's it's the reddest of red flags, and the season's probably over if this is a close game late.
What a world we are living in here in 2022 with this NFL. Crazy. The Vikings running away with the NFC North. But
hurts me.
Pete, always a pleasure, my friend. It was a lot of fun. Thanks so much.
I appreciate being a part of your last Locked On Crossover Edition.
Not
Matt.
If the Lions win, I'm back.
That's true.
Matt Dery, Locked On Lions Thursday crossover. Peter Bukowski, a close friend, by the way, of TJ Lang, on Locked On Packers, right here on the Thursday crossover, brought to you by PrizePicks.